I want to talk to you about the signs that indicate whether a man is someone who can build wealth with you. Because I know that many women are looking for a man and they are looking for love, but they are not thinking about whether this man is someone who can build a future with them financially. They are not thinking about whether this man has the mindset, the work ethic, the discipline, the vision to create wealth. They are focused on whether he makes them feel good. They are focused on whether he's attractive. They are focused on whether he says the right things. But they are not thinking about whether this man can actually build something with them. And I want to tell you something. One of the most important things that you need to look for in a husband is whether he is someone who can build wealth with you. Because financial stress is one of the leading causes of divorce. Money problems destroy marriages. And if you marry a man who does not have the mindset to build wealth, if you marry a man who does not have a vision for financial security, if you marry a man who does not have the discipline to manage money wisely, then you are setting yourself up for financial struggle. You are setting yourself up for conflict. You are setting yourself up for a marriage that is constantly stressed about money. So I want to teach you the signs that indicate whether a man is someone who can build wealth with you. And I want to be very clear about something before we begin. I am not saying that a man needs to be rich. I am not saying that a man needs to have millions of dollars. I am not saying that a man needs to come from money. What I am saying is that a man needs to have the mindset of a wealth builder. A man needs to have the habits of someone who creates wealth. A man needs to have the vision and the discipline to build something meaningful financially over time, because a man with the right mindset can build wealth from nothing. A man with the right habits can go from poverty to prosperity. A man with the right vision can create a future that is secure and abundant. So let me teach you the first sign. The first sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he has a long-term vision. Listen to me carefully. A man who can build wealth is not focused on immediate gratification. He's not focused on what he can get right now. He's focused on what he can create over time. He's thinking about 5 years from now. He's thinking about 10 years from now. He's thinking about where he wants to be, what he wants to have accomplished, what kind of life he wants to be living. And you can see this in how he talks about the future. Does he talk about his goals? Does he talk about where he wants to be in 5 years? Does he talk about what he wants to accomplish? Or does he live completely in the present moment with no thought for the future? Does he talk about his dreams? Does he talk about his vision? Or does he seem to have no direction, no plan, no idea of where he is going? A man who can build wealth is someone who has clarity about the future. He is someone who can articulate what he wants. He is someone who is working towards something. The second sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he has a strong work ethic. Listen to me carefully. A man who builds wealth works. He is not lazy. He does not expect handouts. He does not expect someone else to take care of him. He understands that building wealth requires work. He understands that you do not get rich by sitting around. You get rich by working. You get rich by putting in effort. You get rich by being willing to do hard things. And you can see this in how he approaches his current job or business. Is he engaged? Is he working hard? Is he trying to do well? Is he showing up every day and giving his best effort? Or is he just going through the motions? Is he complaining about his job constantly? Is he putting in minimal effort? Is he looking for the easy way out? A man who builds wealth is someone who understands that work is necessary. He is someone who respects work. He is someone who is willing to work hard to achieve his goals. The third sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he's disciplined with his money. A man who builds wealth does not spend every dollar he makes. He does not live paycheck to paycheck. He does not make frivolous purchases. He understands that to build wealth, you have to spend less than you earn. You have to have discipline. You have to be willing to say no to things you want now so that you can have things you want later. And you can see this in how he handles money in his current life. Does he have savings? Does he have an emergency fund? Does he think before he makes a purchase? Does he consider whether something is a need or a want? Does he avoid unnecessary debt? Or does he spend money recklessly? Does he buy things he does not need? Does he take on debt for things that do not create value? Does he seem to have no control over his spending? A man who builds wealth is someone who is disciplined with his money even when he is not rich. He understands that discipline is how you build wealth. The fourth sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he is willing to invest in himself. A man who builds wealth understands that investing in himself is one of the best investments he can make. He is willing to spend money on education. He is willing to spend money on training. He is willing to spend money on tools that will help him do his job better. He is willing to spend money on his health. He is willing to invest in his own development. And you can see this in his current behavior. Is he reading books? Is he taking courses? Is he learning new skills? Is he trying to improve himself? Is he investing in his health by exercising and eating well? Or does he think that investing in himself is a waste of money? Does he refuse to spend anything on education or development? Does he think he already knows everything? Does he have no interest in growing? A man who builds wealth is someone who understands that his greatest asset is himself. He is someone who is constantly working to improve himself. The fifth sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he thinks in terms of assets and liabilities. A man who builds wealth understands the difference between an asset and a liability. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. A man who builds wealth is focused on acquiring assets. He is thinking about how he can invest his money in things that will generate income. He's thinking about real estate. He's thinking about business. He's thinking about investments. He's thinking about creating multiple streams of income. And you can see this in how he talks about money. Does he talk about investing? Does he talk about starting a business? Does he think about how to generate income? Or does he think that the only way to make money is to work a job? Does he have no concept of building passive income? Does he not understand the difference between earning money and building wealth? A man who builds wealth is someone who understands that to build true wealth, you need assets that generate income. You cannot just rely on your job. The sixth sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he is willing to delay gratification. A man who builds wealth is willing to wait. He is willing to sacrifice now for a better future. He is not obsessed with having things immediately. He can wait for what he wants. He can walk towards something over time. He can be patient. He can stay focused on his long-term goal even when it is difficult in the short term. And you can see this in how he approaches life. Is he willing to wait for things? Is he willing to work on a goal for years? Is he willing to make sacrifices now for a better future? Or does he need everything now? Does he get frustrated when he cannot have something immediately? Does he lack the patience to work toward long-term goals? Does he give up when things do not happen quickly? A man who builds wealth is someone who understands that great things take time. He understands that you cannot build something meaningful overnight. He is willing to stay the course. The seventh sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he is willing to take intelligent risks. A man who builds wealth is not reckless, but he is also not afraid to take risks. He understands that to build wealth, you sometimes have to do things that are uncertain. You have to start a business. You have to invest money. You have to try something new. You have to be willing to fail. But he takes intelligent risks. He does his research. He thinks things through. He does not just jump into things blindly. And you can see this in his willingness to try new things. Is he willing to start a business? Is he willing to invest? Is he willing to take on challenges that might not work out? Or does he only do things that are guaranteed to work? Does he play it completely safe? Does he never take any risks? Does he never try anything new? A man who builds wealth is someone who understands that comfort is the enemy of wealth. You cannot build wealth by doing the same safe thing forever. You have to be willing to take some risks. The eighth sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he learns from his mistakes. A man who builds wealth does not make the same mistake twice. When he fails, when he loses money, when something does not work out, he examines what went wrong. He learns the lesson. He adjusts his approach. He does not repeat the same pattern. He grows from his mistakes. And you can see this in how he talks about his past. Does he acknowledge his mistakes? Does he talk about what he learned? Does he seem to understand why things did not work out? Or does he blame others for his failures? Does he not see his own role in things? Does he repeat the same patterns? Does he make the same mistakes over and over? A man who builds wealth is someone who takes responsibility for his failures and learns from them. The ninth sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he has sources of income that are not just a job. A man who truly builds wealth does not rely solely on employment. He has multiple streams of income. Maybe he has a side business. Maybe he has investments. Maybe he has a skill that he sells independently. Maybe he has created something that generates income. He is not dependent on one employer for his entire income. And you can see this in his current situation. Does he have a side hustle? Does he have a business idea he is working on? Does he have investments? Does he generate income from multiple sources? Or does he have only one job and no other income sources? Does he not even think about diversifying his income? A man who builds wealth is someone who is always thinking about how to create additional income streams. The 10th sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he surrounds himself with people who are building wealth. Show me the people a man spends time with, and I will tell you what his future looks like. If a man spends time with people who are lazy, who are not ambitious, who are content with mediocrity, then that is the energy that surrounds him. That is the influence that is shaping him. But if a man spends time with people who are working hard, who are ambitious, who are building things, who are growing, then that is the energy that surrounds him. That is the influence that is helping him grow. And you can see this in his friendships. Who does he spend time with? Are his friends ambitious? Are they working toward goals? Are they building things? Or are his friends content to just coast? Do they not have any ambitions? Do they just want to have fun and not think about the future? A man who builds wealth is someone who surrounds himself with other people who are building wealth. He understands that you become like the people you spend time with. The 11th sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he is generous but not foolish. A man who builds wealth understands that money is a tool. He is willing to use it to bless others. He is generous. He gives to those in need. He helps people, but he's not foolish about it. He does not give away money that he needs for his own family. He does not make poor financial decisions in the name of generosity. He is wise about how he gives. And you can see this in how he handles money. Is he generous with those who need help? Is he willing to share? But does he also understand boundaries? Does he avoid enabling people who are lazy? Does he not give money to people who will just waste it? A man who builds wealth is someone who is both generous and wise. The 12th sign that a man can build wealth with you is that he views marriage as a partnership towards shared goals. A man who can build wealth with you does not view marriage as him building wealth while you do something else. He views marriage as a team effort. He wants to build something together with you. He is interested in your financial goals. He wants to know what you want to accomplish. He sees the marriage as an opportunity to combine resources and build something greater than either of you could build alone. And you can see this in how he talks about the future. Does he talk about what you will build together? Does he ask about your financial goals? Does he want to combine your resources and strengths? Or does he talk about his wealth building as if you are not part of it? Does he not care about your financial aspirations? Does he see marriage as something separate from building wealth? A man who can build wealth with you is someone who views marriage as a partnership. Now, let me talk about something very important. I want to talk about the difference between a man who has money and a man who can build wealth, because these are not the same thing. A man who has money might have inherited it. He might have come from a wealthy family. He might have just gotten lucky, but he might not have the mindset to keep the money. He might not have the discipline to maintain the wealth. A man who can build wealth is different. A man who can build wealth has the mindset, the habits, the discipline, and the vision to create and grow wealth over time. So what I am saying is this: even if a man does not currently have much money, if he has the signs I have described, he can build wealth. But a man who has money but does not have these signs will likely lose the money. He will likely squander it. He will likely end up poor again. So do not be fooled by a man who has money right now if he does not have the mindset to build and maintain wealth. Let me also talk about something else that is important. I want to talk about the difference between a man who wants to be wealthy and a man who wants to build wealth, because these are different. A man who wants to be wealthy might be dreaming about having money someday, but he is not doing the work to get there. He is not disciplined. He is not working hard. He is not investing in himself. He is just wishing and hoping that money will come to him. But a man who wants to build wealth is different. A man who wants to build wealth is actively working toward it. He is putting in the effort. He is making the sacrifices. He is staying disciplined. He is doing the work. So when you are looking at a man, do not just listen to what he says. Watch what he does. Does he say he wants to be wealthy but then spend money recklessly? Does he say he wants to build wealth but refuse to work hard? Does he say he wants to accomplish great things but then sit around playing video games all day? Do not be fooled by words. Look at actions. A man who truly wants to build wealth will show you through his actions. Now, let me talk about something that I think is really important. I want to talk about the man who is just starting out. Because many of you will meet a man who does not have much money right now. Maybe he's young. Maybe he has just started his career. Maybe he's recovering from financial hardship. And you might be wondering, can this man build wealth? And the answer is maybe. If he has the signs I've described, if he has the mindset and the discipline and the vision and the work ethic, then yes, he can build wealth. You do not need a man who is already wealthy. You need a man who has the potential to build wealth. You need a man who has the right mindset and the right habits. But I also want to warn you about something. I want to warn you about the man who says he wants to build wealth but does not actually do anything about it. He talks a big game. He has big dreams. He makes big promises, but he does not do the work. He does not actually work hard. He does not actually invest in himself. He does not actually make the sacrifices. He just talks. Do not fall for this. Actions speak louder than words. Let me also talk about the importance of financial compatibility. Just as you want to be with someone who shares your values about God and about family, you want to be with someone who shares your values about money and about building wealth. If you are someone who is disciplined with money, who wants to build wealth, who is willing to sacrifice now for a better future, then you need to be with a man who shares those values. If you marry a man who is frivolous with money, who spends everything he makes, who has no vision for the future, then you will be constantly frustrated. You will be constantly at odds about money. So before you commit to a man, you need to have conversations about money. You need to understand his financial mindset. You need to know whether he is disciplined or reckless with money. You need to know whether he has financial goals. You need to know whether he is willing to work hard to build something. You need to know whether he has the same financial vision that you have. Because if you marry someone who does not share your financial values, you will struggle. Now, I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking. I know that some of you are thinking, but what if I marry a man who does not have these signs? What if I marry a man who is lazy? What if I marry a man who does not have a vision for wealth? Can I change him? And the answer is probably not. People change because they want to change. People change because they see a need to change. People change because they decide to change. You cannot change a man. You cannot make him have a vision for wealth if he does not want one. You cannot make him work hard if he does not want to. You cannot make him disciplined if he's not disciplined. So do not marry a man hoping that you will change him. Do not marry a man thinking that he will transform once you are married. That is not how it works. So before you marry a man, before you commit your life to him, before you promise to build a future with him, make sure that he has these signs. Make sure that he has the mindset to build wealth. Make sure that he has the discipline to build wealth. Make sure that he has the vision to build wealth. Because if he does, then you can build a future of prosperity together. But if he does not, then you are setting yourself up for financial stress and conflict. Let me also say something about women. I want to say something about the role that you play in building wealth with your husband. Because it is not just about finding the right man. It is also about being the right woman. It is about being a woman who understands wealth building. It is about being a woman who is disciplined with money. It is about being a woman who supports your husband's vision. It is about being a woman who makes sacrifices now for a better future. It is about being a woman who does not undermine his efforts by spending recklessly. It is about being a woman who is a partner in building wealth, not a barrier to it. So before you look for a man, you need to make sure that you are the kind of woman who can build wealth. You need to make sure that you are disciplined. You need to make sure that you understand wealth building. You need to make sure that you are willing to sacrifice. You need to make sure that you are not going to be a liability to your husband's wealth building. You need to make sure that you are going to be an asset. Now, let me talk about what happens when you marry a man who has these signs. What happens when you marry a man who can build wealth with you? First, you will have financial security. You will not be constantly stressed about money. You will not be worried about how bills will get paid. You will know that your husband is working toward financial security. You will know that he has a plan. You will know that he's been disciplined. And this will give you peace. Second, you will have a partner who is helping you build a future. You will not be in a marriage where you are the only one thinking about the future. You will not be in a marriage where you are the only one working hard. You will have a partner who is equally invested in building something. You will have a partner who is making sacrifices alongside you. Third, you will be able to raise your children in an environment of financial stability. Your children will not grow up worried about money. Your children will see their parents working together to build something. Your children will learn the value of hard work, discipline, and vision. Your children will grow up with a healthy relationship to money. Fourth, you will have the ability to build generational wealth. You will not just be living paycheck to paycheck. You will have the opportunity to build something that you can pass down to your children. You will have the opportunity to create a legacy. So these are the signs, these are the things that you need to look for in a man who can build wealth with you. A man who has a long-term vision. A man who has a strong work ethic. A man who is disciplined with money. A man who is willing to invest in himself. A man who thinks in terms of assets and liabilities. A man who is willing to delay gratification. A man who is willing to take intelligent risks. A man who learns from his mistakes. A man who has multiple sources of income. A man who surrounds himself with ambitious people. A man who is generous but not foolish. A man who views marriage as a partnership towards shared goals. Look for these signs. Observe these signs. Test these signs. Before you commit to a man, before you promise to build a future with him, make sure that he has these signs. Because your financial future depends on it. Your children's future depends on it. Your ability to build generational wealth depends on it. And I want to say something else. I want to say that if you are already married to a man who does not have these signs, it is not too late. It is not too late to have a conversation with him about wealth building. It is not too late to encourage him to develop these signs. It is not too late to work together to build a better financial future. But you need to be honest with him. You need to tell him that you want to build wealth together. You need to encourage him to develop the mindset and the discipline to build wealth. You need to be a partner in this journey. But if you are not yet married, if you are still looking for a husband, I want to encourage you to be very careful. Do not marry a man just because he makes you feel good. Do not marry a man just because he's handsome. Do not marry a man just because he says the right things. Make sure that he has the signs that indicate he can build wealth with you. Make sure that he has the mindset. Make sure that he has the vision. Make sure that he has the discipline, because your future depends on it. A man who can build wealth with you is a man who will create a life of security for you. A man who can build wealth with you is a man who will create opportunities for your children. A man who can build wealth with you is a man who will create a legacy. So choose wisely. Look for these signs, and when you find a man who has them, commit to building a future of prosperity with him. Signs to see in a man who will build wealth with you. Complete teaching. Let me go back and expand on each of these signs, because I want you to really understand them. I want you to be able to recognize them in a man. I want you to be able to distinguish between a man who can build wealth and a man who cannot. So let me start with the first sign again. A man who has a long-term vision. When I talk about a man who has a long-term vision, I am talking about a man who can see beyond today. I am talking about a man who is not just living in the moment. I am talking about a man who understands that his choices today affect his future. I am talking about a man who is thinking about what he wants to accomplish. I am talking about a man who has written down goals. I am talking about a man who has a plan for where he wants to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. And here is what is important about this. A man who has a long-term vision will make decisions differently. He will not spend money recklessly because he's thinking about his future. He will not waste time because he's thinking about his goals. He will not take a job just for the paycheck if it does not align with his long-term vision. He will not say yes to every opportunity because he's thinking about what is actually going to help him achieve his vision. So when you are getting to know a man, ask him about his vision. Ask him where he wants to be in 10 years. Ask him what he wants to accomplish. Listen to his answer. Does he have a clear vision or does he seem confused? Does he say something generic like I just want to be happy, or does he have specific goals? A man who can build wealth has a clear vision. He can articulate it. He is working toward it. Now let me talk more about the work ethic sign. A man who has a strong work ethic is someone who understands that nothing worthwhile comes without effort. He is willing to work hard. He is willing to put in long hours if necessary. He is willing to do work that is not glamorous if it gets him closer to his goals. He's not looking for shortcuts. He's not looking for easy money. He is willing to do the work. And here is what is important. A man with a strong work ethic will not complain about work constantly. He might not love his job. He might want something different, but he will do his job well. He will show up on time. He will give his best effort. He will try to add value because he understands that his work ethic now is building his reputation. His work ethic now is building his future. So observe how a man talks about his work. Does he seem engaged? Does he talk about ways to do his job better? Does he take pride in what he does? Or does he complain constantly? Does he seem disengaged? Does he put in minimal effort? A man who can build wealth is someone who takes his work seriously. He understands that his work is his vehicle to wealth. Now, let me expand on the discipline with money sign. A man who is disciplined with money does not live a lifestyle that he cannot afford. He does not buy things he does not need. He does not keep up with others. He does not feel the need to display his wealth through expensive possessions. He is content with what he has and he is focused on building more. And here is what is important. A disciplined man with money will have systems. He will track his spending. He will have a budget. He will know where his money is going. He will have an emergency fund. He will have savings. He will not be living paycheck to paycheck. He will have margin in his life financially. So ask a man about his finances. Ask him if he has savings. Ask him if he has a budget. Ask him how he tracks his money. Listen to his answers. A man who can build wealth has systems. He has discipline. He knows where his money is going. Now, let me talk about the man who invests in himself. A man who invests in himself understands that his greatest asset is his own mind and body. He's willing to spend money on education. He's willing to spend money on skills. He's willing to spend money on fitness. He is willing to spend money on personal development because he understands that the money he spends on himself will come back to him multiplied. And here is what is important. A man who invests in himself is always learning. He reads books. He listens to podcasts. He takes courses. He learns new skills. He does not think he knows everything. He is humble enough to admit that he does not know something and is willing to learn it. So observe whether a man is reading. Observe whether he is trying to learn new things. Observe whether he is investing in his health and fitness. A man who can build wealth is someone who is constantly improving himself. Now, let me talk about thinking in terms of assets and liabilities. This is really important. A man who thinks this way understands the difference between something that makes money and something that costs money. He understands that a house that you live in is a liability because it costs you money. But a house that you rent out is an asset because it makes you money. He understands that a car that you drive is a liability. But a business that generates income is an asset. And here is what is important. A man who thinks this way is always looking for ways to acquire assets. He is thinking about how to start a business. He is thinking about real estate. He is thinking about investments. He is not just thinking about how much money he makes from his job. He is thinking about how he can make his money work for him. So when you talk to a man, pay attention to how he thinks about money. Does he think in terms of assets and liabilities? Does he talk about business ideas? Does he think about investments? Or does he think that the only way to make money is to have a job? A man who can build wealth is thinking beyond his paycheck. Now, let me talk about delaying gratification. This is one of the most important signs. A man who can delay gratification is someone who can wait for what he wants. He is not obsessed with having things now. He can walk toward a goal for years without seeing immediate results. He can make sacrifices today, knowing that they will pay off in the future. And here is what is important. A man who can delay gratification is someone who will not destroy your wealth. He is someone who will not spend money on things you cannot afford. He is someone who will not pressure you to have a lifestyle that you cannot sustain. He is someone who is willing to live simply while you are building. So observe whether a man is willing to delay gratification. Does he want everything now, or is he willing to wait? Does he get frustrated when he cannot have something immediately, or is he patient? A man who can build wealth is patient. He understands that great things take time. Now, let me talk about taking intelligent risks. This is different from being reckless. A man who takes intelligent risks has thought things through. He has done his research. He understands the risks. He understands the potential reward. He makes calculated decisions. He is not just throwing money at something hoping it will work. He is thinking strategically. And here is what is important. A man who takes intelligent risks will sometimes fail. He will sometimes lose money, but he will learn from it and move forward. He will not be paralyzed by fear, but he will not be reckless either. He will take calculated risks. So pay attention to whether a man is willing to try new things. Is he willing to start a business? Is he willing to invest? Is he willing to take on challenges that might not work out? A man who can build wealth is not afraid to take risks, but he's thoughtful about the risks he takes. Now, let me talk about learning from mistakes. This is so important. A man who builds wealth makes mistakes, but he does not repeat them. When something goes wrong, when he loses money, when something does not work out, he examines what happened. He asks himself, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? How can I avoid this in the future? And then he adjusts his approach. And here is what is important. A man who learns from mistakes is humble. He is willing to admit that he was wrong. He is not defensive. He is not trying to blame others. He takes responsibility for his mistakes. So pay attention to how a man talks about his failures. Does he take responsibility? Does he talk about what he learned, or does he blame others? A man who can build wealth is someone who takes responsibility for his failures and learns from them. Now, let me talk about having multiple streams of income. A man who truly builds wealth does not put all his eggs in one basket. He has multiple sources of income. Maybe he has a job, but maybe he also has a side business. Maybe he has rental income. Maybe he has investment income. Maybe he sells a skill or product. He is not dependent on one employer. And here is what is important. A man who has multiple streams of income is thinking strategically about his money. He is not relying on one job to support his family. He is creating options for himself. He is building security. So pay attention to whether a man has a side hustle. Does he have a business idea he's working on? Does he have investments? Does he generate income from multiple sources? A man who can build wealth is always thinking about how to diversify his income. Now, let me talk about surrounding himself with ambitious people. This is really important. You become like the people you spend time with. If a man spends time with lazy people, with people who have no ambition, with people who are content to coast, then he will become like them. But if he spends time with people who are ambitious, who are building things, who are growing, then he will become like them. And here is what is important. A man who is serious about building wealth will have friends who are also serious about building wealth. He will not be spending all his time with people who are just trying to party or escape life. He will be spending time with people who are working towards something. So pay attention to who a man spends time with. Who are his friends? Are they ambitious? Are they working toward goals? Are they building things? A man who can build wealth surrounds himself with other people who are building wealth. Now, let me talk about being generous but not foolish. A man who builds wealth is generous. He helps people. He gives to those in need. But he's not foolish about it. He does not give away money that he needs. He does not enable people who are lazy. He does not support people who are making bad choices and refusing to take responsibility. And here is what is important. A man who is generous but not foolish understands boundaries. He cares about people. But he also understands that he cannot save everyone. He cannot enable bad behavior. He has to take care of his own family first. So pay attention to how a man handles requests for money. Does he help people? But does he also have boundaries? Does he avoid enabling people? A man who can build wealth is both generous and wise. Finally, let me talk about viewing marriage as a partnership. A man who can build wealth with you does not see wealth building as a solo project. He wants to build it with you. He wants to know about your goals. He wants to combine your strengths. He wants to work together. And here is what is important. This man will talk about what you will build together. He will ask about your financial goals. He will want to combine your resources. He will see the marriage as an opportunity to build something greater. So pay attention to how a man talks about the future. Does he talk about what you will build together? Does he ask about your goals? A man who can build wealth with you is someone who sees marriage as a true partnership. These are the signs. Look for these signs. Test these signs, because your future depends on finding a man who has them.